Devi Pārvatī said, "You told me about the mode of victories by men in war, but if one has to fight against Yamaraja, then how should he gain victory?" Īsvara Mahādeva said, "One who meditates upon the gods with a still and undisturbed mind, and submits the oblation of his organism in Kumbhaka, gets his desire fulfilled, gains immense benefit and victory." The word of form originated from the formless God. This word manifests in form the moment one has the knowledge of the formless Lord. Some pure souls obtain the knowledge of the elements due to the karmas of previous births or the kindness of their gurus. The bija of earth is lam, which should be meditated upon as residing in a square, yellow, shining like gold, and full of sweet fragrance. One who does so obtains a shining and fine body. The Van bija should be meditating in the water element. It is like a half moon in shape. One who meditates upon it is not troubled by the pains of hunger and thirst. He can also remain submerged in water. He does not experience any difficulty even he is drowned in water. Ram is the bija of Agni element, which is triangular in shape and red in color. It is worth meditating, and one who does so gains tolerance of intense fury of sun and fire and can devour any amount of food. Yam is the bija of wind element. Its shape is round and color black. It should be meditated upon, and one who does so can fly in the air like birds. Hum is the bija of Akash element, and is formless and of extra brightness. One who meditates upon it gains a knowledge of past, present and future, and also gets Anima and the other siddhis. There is no wealth better than the place where a person with the knowledge of Swaras resides. A person who moves with the knowledge of Swaras gets success without any effort. One should start the determination of the Swaras always from the morning onwards, because although the yogis talk about the actions depend on laws or delay of time, yet they have the capacity to recognize the elements. One should place both the left and right thumbs on the respective ears, both the middle fingers on both the nostrils, the tarjanis on both the eyes, and the anamikas and the little fingers of both hands on the mouth. When one has done so, then the knowledge of the elements comes to him in the form of colors: yellow color for earth, white for water, red for fire, black for vayu, and spotted color for akash. Placing a mirror, one should throw his breath on it and try to see the form of the haze formed on it. Thus the pandits should know the predominating elements on the basis of the shape of the haze. If the haze so formed is square, like half moon, triangular or dotted, then one should know it is the sign of the Akash element. If the breath air is passing through the central part of the nostril, it is an indicative of the earth element. If it is through the lower part, it means water element. If it is through the topmost part, it means fire element. And if it is oblique through the sides, it means air element. If it is flowing in a rotating manner, it indicates the Akash element. The color of water is white, of earth is yellow, of fire red, of air blue, and of the Akash like the color of clouds. The fire element resides on both the shoulders, the air element at the root of the navel, the earth element in the thighs, the water element in the lower part of the feet, and the Akash element in the forehead. The taste of earth is sweet, of water saline, of fire bitter, of air sour, and of Akash pungent. The length of Swara of air element is 8 fingers, of fire element 4 fingers, of earth element 12 fingers, and that of water element 16 fingers. If the Swara flows in the upward direction, it is an indicative of death. If it flows in the downward direction, it indicates tranquility. If it flows in an oblique manner, then one should do the acts of repulsing others, uchana, and if it is in the middle, one should do the obstructing acts, stambhana. The effect of Akash element is moderate in all kinds of works. When the earth element is dominant, then one should do stationary works. When water element is dominant, roving works can be done successfully. When the fire element is dominant, cruel works are successful, and when air element is dominant, the like acts like uchana, repulsing others, and marana, killing others, are successful. No work should be done when the Akash element is dominating, because everything draws a blank during its reign. However, yoga sadhana can be done during its dominance. The earth and water elements provide siddhi, success. Fire element provides death. The air element provides destruction or loss, and the Akash element makes everything infructuous. So should persons know who possess the knowledge of the Tattvas. The earth element gives considerable success. The water element gives immediate profit. The air and the fire elements provide loss, and the Akash element makes things unsuccessful. When there is yellow color, the Svara is moving consistently and with a moderate speed, with the heaviness of its sound experiencing up to the chin, and which may be slightly warm, then one should know it to be the dominance of the earth element, which provides success in all kinds of stationary works. That which flows downwards, whose sound is heavy, which is fast in speed, which may be slightly cold, and whose distance may be 16 fingers, should be known as the Svara of water dominance, and under it one should do only auspicious work. One that moves in a circular form, which is slightly warm, whose color is red, whose distance is 4 fingers, and which flows in an upward direction, is the Svara of fire element, and one should do only cruel works under it. One that is temperate, whose color is dark, which flows in an oblique direction, and whose distance is 8 fingers, should be known as the Svara of air element, and only roving business are successful under it. The Svara which flows with the qualities of all other elements should be known as that of Akasha element, and it is the Svara which makes the objects of yogis successful. The Svara whose color is yellow, which is square in shape and sweet in taste, which flows through the middle and whose length is 12 fingers, is called earth element, and it bestows all prosperities. The Svara whose color is white, which is like a half moon in shape, whose taste is sweet and astringent, which is wet, and the length of whose flow in 16 fingers, is water element, and it gives all benefits. The Svara whose color is red and shaped triangular, whose taste is pungent, which flows upwards, and whose length is 4 fingers, should be known as the fire element. The Svara which is blue in color, so in taste, which moves in an oblique direction, which is never still, and the length of whose flow is 8 fingers, should be known as the wind element. That Svara which in color, taste, flow, and direction of movement is an assortment of all other Swaras, should be known as the Akash element, and it makes every work infructuous. The earth and water elements are auspicious. The fire element gives a middle result, and the Akash and the wind elements give inauspicious results, loss and death. The earth element extends from east to west. The wind element resides in the north, and in the middle is situated the Akash element. When there is a predominance of water or earth elements under the moon Svara, or there is fire element under the sun Svara, then it bestows success to all good or bad works, there is no doubt about it. Earth element is beneficial during the time of the day, and the water element during the night time. There is death from fire element, destruction from wind element, and from Akash element. Often there can be loss due to fire. The earth element is considered favorable for preservation of life, victory, profit, agriculture, efforts towards earning money, mantra sadhana, war, asking questions from anyone, going out or returning. If there is a dominance of the water element, then one should expect the arrival of an enemy. When there is a dominance of the earth element, it is auspicious. When there is a predominance of the wind element, then the enemy may go elsewhere. And when there is a predominance of fire or Akash elements, then it will cause loss or death of the enemy. If someone asks a question when the earth element is dominant, there will be anxiety about vegetation. When the question is asked during the predominance of the water or wind elements, then there will be anxiety for life. And when the fire element is predominant, then there will be anxiety for metals. When the Akash element is dominating, there may be an absence of anxiety. There will be no anxiety at all. If the earth element is dominating, then one will move in company of several persons. If the water and wind element are dominating, he will move alone. When the fire element is dominating, he will move along with another person. 2 persons would move together. And if the Akash element is dominating, then one would not move at all. When the right Svara is flowing, then in the fire element the Mars, in the earth element the Sun, in the water element the Saturn, and in the wind element the Rahu dominates. When the left Svara is flowing, then in the water element the Moon, in the earth element the Mercury, in the wind element the Jupiter, and in the fire element the Venus dominate. All these planets always dominate in all worlds under their respective swaras and elements. Mercury resides in the earth, Moon in the water, Sun and Mars in the fire, Rahu and Saturn in the wind, and Jupiter in the Akash elements. If Rahu is residing in the Sun swara, and someone happens to ask a question about the whereabouts of a person who has gone to some other place, then he should be answered that the person in question has already moved to some other place from the place he had originally gone to. If the water element is dominating at the time of the question, then the reply should be that the person who has gone out would soon return. If the earth element is dominating, the answer should be that the person who has gone out is spending his time well at the place where he has gone. If the wind element is dominating, then the answer should be that the person in question has moved further to some other place. If the fire element is dominating, then the answer should be that the person in question is already dead. When the earth element is dominating, then one should know about the vegetations. When the water element is dominating, then one should know it for auspicious works. When the fire element is dominating, then one should know about the metals. And when the Akash element is dominating, then one should know it to be blank. One should not express his knowledge about anything. At the time of a question about someone who has gone out, if there is either earth or water element, then the person in question is enjoying a satisfied life, good health, love of others, sufficient entertainment, victory and pleasure. If there is fire or the wind element, then the person in question is suffering from fever, with shivering or excessive sleep. If the Akash element is there, then the person in question should be pronounced dead. These 12 questions have been said in respect of the dominance of the elements. The persons who know should note them carefully. The earth, water, fire and wind elements are powerful, in the east, west, south and north directions respectively. O Pārvatī, this body is 5 elemental. It's made up of earth, water, fire, wind and Akash elements, and there are 5 qualities of earth in this body in the form of bones, flesh, skin, nadis, and the 5th the hairs of the body. Thus say the person who are master of the Vedas and Sastra. Brahmajanis say that the semen, blood, fat, urine and the 5th the saliva are the qualities of water. According to the Brahmajanis, hunger, thirst, sleep, letharginess and lustry are the 5 qualities of fire. And the Vedantis say that running, walking, tying a knot, contraction and expansion are the 5 qualities of wind. The knowers of the Danda Futa say that love, enmity, shyness, fear and attachment are the 5 qualities of Akash. In this body, the earth resides for 50 palas, the water for 40 palas, fire for 30 palas, wind for 20 palas and the Akash for 10 palas. That is from earth onwards the period of which of the subsequent elements decrease by 10 palas respectively. If the earth is raining, then the benefit or profit would come after a long time. If the water is raining, the benefit or profit will come almost immediately. If the wind is raining, then the quantum of benefit would be comparatively less. And if the fire is raining, then even a completed or successful work would be reversed or spoiled. There are 5 qualities of earth, 4 of water, 3 of fire, 2 of wind and 1 of Akash. This is the knowledge of the Tattvas. Hissing, blowing, broken and lying useless, this earth provides results in all the works according to its condition. Dhanista, Rohini, Jyesta, Anuradha, Shravana, Abhijit and Uttarashada are the 7 lunar mansions of earth element. Purvasada, Aslesa, Mula, Ardra, Revati, Uttar, Bhadra, Pada and Satadisa are the 7 lunar mansions of water element. Bharani, Kritika, Puisa, Maga, Purva Falguni, Purva Bhadrapada and Swati are the 7 lunar mansions of fire element. Visakha, Uttara Falguni, Hasta Chitra, Purnarvasu, Aswini and Margasirya are the 7 lunar mansions of wind element. If a messenger sits on the side whose nadi is flowing, either left side or the right side according to the flow of the left or right nadi, and asks either auspicious or inauspicious question, then all the questions become fulfilled. If he asks a question from a vacant direction, then his question would draw a blank. Even if the Surya or Chandra elements are flowing with their full strength in the breathing, they do not provide success. But if there is a conjunction of both, then it is giver of all kinds of success. Īsvara said, If one with his sun Swara attracts the moon Swara of a woman and establishes it within his Jiva Mandala, then that woman would be captivated forever. So have said the men who practice austerities. But this succeeds only in case of one's own married wife. The man should adopt the Shivasvara of a woman with his own Shivasvara and extend his Shivasvara to the Shivasvara of the woman. When the Shivasvara of the man resides thus in the Shivasvara of the woman, the man remains captivated by the woman through his life. The man who drinks the Sunsuma Swara in the midnight when the woman is sleeping keeps the prana of the woman captivated. After that time is a little past, then if the man with the recitation of the Astakshara mantra lends his moon Swara to the woman, then she instantly develops love for him. When one is lying, when he is in intercourse with a woman, or just touching her, drinks the moon Swara of the woman with his sun Swara, then his charm becomes captivating like the god of love. If there is a conjunction of the Shiva Swara and the Shakti Swara at the time of intercourse with a woman, or if the man gives his moon Swara to the woman, moon or Shakti Swara to the woman, then that man can win over 100 women. After lending his sun Swara to the moon Swara of a woman, if there is companionship for 9, 7, 3 or 5 times, or putting his Surya Swara into the moon Swara of the woman, he meets the woman on 2, 4 or 6 times, then that woman would be captivated. Drawing his Surya and Chandra Swara with the speed of a serpent, one should put his lips on the lips of a woman and make the moon and sun Swara to meet as described above. As long as the woman is under his lips, so long the man should drink the nectar of the lips of the woman, and when she wakes up, he should kiss her neck and eyes. A man should so captivate the woman, but it is my order that the method of captivation should not be divulged to a licentious or person of loose character. On the 5th day from the day a woman is free from the monthly menstrual cycle, and the sun Swara of the man and the moon Swara of the woman is flowing, then an intercourse with the woman under such circumstances would give birth to a male child. When the water and earth elements are flowing, then the woman should take cow milk mixed with Shankavali and request her husband 3 times for intercourse. When the woman has taken the aforesaid medicine after the menstrual cycle, then the man should enter into intercourse with her. This will produce a beautiful male child, as brave as the lion among animals. A person who enters into intercourse during the flow of the sun Swara under the Sunsuma Swara, then he will produce a deformed and ugly child. After the menstruation, on the odd days when the sun Swara of the man flows during the day and night, and the moon Swara of the woman, and the fertilization takes place when either earth, water or fire elements are raining, then it will produce a child even to a sterile woman. If at the beginning of the menstruation the sun Swara of the man and the moon Swara of the woman flows, and both happen to cohabit, then even a sterile woman would also conceive. If at the start of the intercourse the sun Swara flows in the man, and after the ejaculation the moon Swara starts flowing, then the woman would not conceive. If at the time of a question from a pregnant woman the moon Nadi is flowing, then she carries a daughter in her womb. If the sun Swara flows, then it is a son, and if both the Swaras are flowing, then there would be a premature abortion. If at the time of the question there is earth element, then a daughter. If water, then a son. If wind, then also a daughter. If fire, then an abortion. And if there is a caste, then an impotent would be born. If at the time of a question regarding to the nature of the pregnancy, the moon Swara is there, then a daughter. If sun Swara, then a son. If Sunsuma, then an impotent. And if the body and limbs of the questioner are not suffering from any deformity, then a son would be born. O my beauty, if the questioner comes to the side of a vacant Swara, then there will be no birth at all. If both the Swaras are running, then there would be a birth of twins. And if there is an alternation of Swaras, that is the Sunsuma is flowing, then there would be abortion. So should the knowledge of Tattvas derive. If the conception takes place under the wind element, then the offspring would be giver of pain. If it takes place under the water element, then an offspring famous in all directions and giver of comforts would be born. If it takes place under the fire element, then either there will be abortion or the born baby would be short-lived. and if it takes place under the earth element, then the offspring would be beautiful, wealthy, and prosperous in life. If the conception takes place under the water element, the son born would spend a comfortable and enjoyable life, and his wealth would never leave him. If the conception takes place under the Akash element, then there would be abortion. If the conception takes place under the earth element, then a son, and if under the water element, then a daughter would be born. And if it takes place under the remaining elements, then there would either be an abortion or the child would die soon after birth. One should obtain from his guru at the earliest the knowledge as to how to know the existence of the moon Swara in the middle of the sun and the sun Swara in the middle of the moon. This cannot otherwise be known through the study of Vedas or a million Shastras. On the first day of the lighted fortnight of Chaitra, the first month of the Hindu calendar, erudite yogis should try to see the summer and the winter solstice, and the differentiation of the Swaras. He should predict the results for the whole year through the flow of the Swaras. If at the time of the rising of the moon Swara there is either earth, water, or the wind elements, then there would be a good harvest. If under the moon Swara there is fire or the Akash element, then there would be serious famine and difficulty. Similarly, one should know the results for the year and month of day according to the aforesaid order of the Tattvas. The Sunsuma Nadi is considered cruel and bad for all types of works, and it caused the destruction of the country, epidemics, pains, difficulties, and other calamities. If one meditates over the difference of the Swaras at the time of transition of the sun to the sign of Aries, then the knower of the Tattvas can predict the results for the whole year. If at the above time there are earth and water elements, then the predictions for the year, month, and day would be auspicious. And if there are Akash, wind, or fire elements, then the results would be inauspicious. If at that time the earth element is raining during the day, then there will be prosperity, rich crops, sufficient rainfall, and prosperity. If on that time the water element is flowing, then there will be sufficient rainfall, prosperity, freedom from disease, and rich crop in the fields. If the fire element is flowing, then there would be famine, division of the country, scanty rainfall, and destruction of the productions. If at that time there is wind element, then there would be trouble, calamity, fear, scanty rainfall, and excess of insects such as mosquitoes. If at that time there is Akash element, then one should know the scantiness of crop and comfort. If the Swara enters in its fullness, then the favorable elements would provide sufficient crops. If at the time of the rise of the elements the sun or the moon Swaras are reversed, there is sun Swara in the place of the moon or vice versa, then it gives sufficient crop and prosperity. If there is the fire or Akash element in the right Swara, and if one starts hoarding, then there may be dearness all around within 2 months. If in the night Sun Nadi is flowing, and in the morning the Moon Nadi starts flowing, and there is a conjunction of the Akash, wind, and fire elements, then there would be numerous calamities on the earth. If at the time of the question there is earth element, then this is due to one's own fate. If there is water element, then this is due to excessive irritation. And if there is fire element, then this is caused by aberration in the phenomena or pain would occur. If the questioner comes first toward the vacant side of the Swara and then shifts to the Swara which is flowing, then the patient, even if he is in a state of coma, would definitely survive. If a questioner regarding the welfare of someone who is ill sits on that side whose Swara is flowing and asks a question, then the patient would definitely survive the illness. If the right Nadi is flowing and the questioner happens to utter something very bad, the patient would yet live. If the moon Nadi is flowing, then the result would be status quo. One should consider his own Swara. Now, if the questioner taking his place on that side whose Swara is flowing asks the question regarding the life of the patient, he will get the fruit of the patient's life. If a questioner asks a question at the inhalation of either the left or right Nadi, then his desire would be fulfilled. There is no doubt about it. If at the time of a question the questioner takes his place at a lower place than his patient, would definitely survive, but if he takes a higher place, his patient would meet his death. If there is a rise of Susuma and the questioner happens to ask his question from a blank Nadi with the number of letters of his question being odd, 1, 3, 5, etc., then the result would be against him. If one's own Swara is in the place of the moon, and the questioner take his place on the sun side, then his patient, even if treated by 100 physicians, would yet meet his death. If one's own Swara is flowing through Pingala, and the questioner taking his seat on the left side as a question, then still his patient would die, even if Maheshwar himself is protecting him. If even one element is adverse, the disease becomes acute. If two elements are adverse, then there is a danger from friends and relatives. And if this state continues for 2 fortnights, 1 month, there is a certain death. On the basis of the movement of Vayu, an able person should examine the time of death in the order of month, fortnight, and year. If the breath of a person flows through the night through one nostril, then he would within 3 years meet his death. According to the knowledge of elements, if the breath of a person remains flowing through Pingala for 2 consecutive nights, then he has a life of only 2 years. A person whose breath remains flowing through one nostril from 3 consecutive nights has, according to those who know, 1 year of life. A person in whom there is a consistent flow of moon swara in the night and sun swara in the day will meet his death within 6 months. A person who, on looking at the reflection of the sun in water, finds the sun disk cut in the south, west, north, or east directions, has a lifespan of 6, 3, 2, or 1 month respectively. If he sees the disk cut in the southern direction, he has a lifespan of 6 months. If in the west, a lifespan of 3 months. If in the north, a lifespan of 2 months. And if in the east, a lifespan of only 1 month. If the reflection has a hole in the center, then only 10 days of life are left. And if the entire reflection appears to be rotating, then he will meet his death that very day. The omniscient sages have so said about the apparent span of one's life. If a question regarding the welfare of a patient is put forth by a messenger of the following descriptions, then the patient would die. If the master is putting on a black loin cloth, has injuries in his teeth, has his head shaved, is holding a rope in his hand with a body rubbed with oil, is poor, is in tears while asking the question, has ashes, burning embers, is cool, or a pestle in his hands, comes after sunset, and whose legs are benumbed, sudden mental disturbance, sudden aberration in the senses, and sudden development of good qualities are all symptoms of delirium. Listen, now my own observations about one whose body is cold, whose mind is disturbed, and whose body develops unfavorable symptoms, especially of approaching death. One who utters words portentous of inauspicious meaning, who speaks incorrect words and later repents over it, will soon die, there is no doubt about it. Whose hunkar, roar, is cold, and whose hissing is like fire, definitely dies even though protected by physicians. A patient who is not able to see clearly any of this, his tongue, the sky, pole star, feet of Vishnu, the matrikas, Arundhati, moon, Venus, or Agasti, would definitely die within a year. One who cannot see the sun, moon, or fire, and also the rays, has only 11 months of life left for him. One who either in the waking state or in a dream sees a pool full of human excreta, urine, gold or silver, will not live beyond 10 months. A person who does not see a lamp or gold rubbed on a touchstone, or sees deformity in all the species, would not live beyond 9 months. If a man's nature changes suddenly, if he is fat but suddenly becomes lean and thin, or vice versa, or his black complexion suddenly changes to glistening golden color, or being brave and courageous, he suddenly becomes meek and coward, or being religious becomes altogether irreligious, or still being of a composed temperament becomes of an unstable temperament, then he would live only for 8 months. A person who develops pain in the palm of his hand or at the root of his tongue, or whose blood becomes blackish and he does not feel pain even if pinched, will die within 7 months. A person whose middle fingers, first, middle and third fingers of the hand, do not bend, whose throat becomes dry even without any disease, who in spite of repeated questions is unable to give consistent replies, will die within 6 months. A person whose breast skin becomes insensitive will definitely be born on the shoulders of 4 persons. He will die within 5 months. A person whose eyes lose their sight but suffer from pain will die within 4 months. A person whose teeth and testicles do not experience pain when pressed will die within 3 months. I now declare briefly that science of Shiva, with which one can foresee the Kala, the death, although it may still be far away. One should go to a desolate place and then placing the sun on his back try to see carefully the neck of his shadow. Thereafter, if looking at the sky, he recites the mantra Rim Parbrahmane Nama 108 times. He will see the Lord Shankara, whose appearance is like pure crystal and who can assume numerous forms. One who practices it for 6 months becomes a king, and if he continues to practice for 2 years, he can become the creator, the destroyer, and the lord of his self. If he continues the practice whereafter, he will obtain the knowledge of all the 3 times, the past, present, and future, get perfect bliss, and nothing will remain inaccessible to him. A yogi who sees in that manner the complexion of Shiva as black would meet his death within 6 months, there is no doubt about it. If he sees the complexion of Shiva as yellow, he will suffer from fear. If blue, then he will suffer loss. And if he sees it multihua, then that yogi would actually see this. If he cannot in the reflection see the feet, ankles, belly or hands, then the yogi will definitely meet his death. If he is unable to see the left hand, then his wife would meet certain death. If unable to see the right hand, his kinsman would meet destruction. And in a month's time he would himself die. Death would come to him within a month who is unable to see the head, within 8 days if unable to see the thighs or the shoulders, and immediately if unable to see the shadow at all. Putting one's back to the sun in the morning, if the fingers and lips of the shadow are not visible, then one would meet his death within a second. If the entire shadow and his own person is not visible, then he would die within half a second. Same would be the fate if the ears, shoulders, hands, mouth, sides and heart are not visible. If the head of the shadow is not visible, and the person also loses the knowledge of the directions, then he would survive only for 6 months. If the samsara flows continuously in a person for 16 days, then that person will die within 15 days. If in a person only the samsara flows continuously and the moonswara does not flow at all, then he will die within a fortnight. If in a person the excreta, urine and wind come out simultaneously, then he would know that it is time for death and he would end his life within 10 days. If in a person the moonswara continues to flow and the samsara does not flow even once, then he would die within a month. So say the persons having knowledge of that. If one is unable to see the pole star, Arundhati, 3 feet of Vishnu, and 4th the Matrikas, all names of star or constellations, then he should know that no life is left for him. Here the tongue is called Arundhati, tip of the nose pole star, eyebrows the feet of Vishnu, and the stars as Matrikas. That would certainly come to him within 9 days who is unable to see the eyebrows, within 7 days who is unable to hear any sound by his ears, within 3 days who is unable to see the stars, and within a day who is unable to see his tongue. One should lightly press the inner corners of the eye, and if by doing so he does not see a light spot, then he should know that he will die within 10 days. One can avert that by bathing in the tirthas, charity, austerity, righteous actions, recitation of mantras, concentration and yoga. Impurities and humors destroy the body, but the equilibrium of wind increases the vigor and strength. One should perfect his body by religious practice. Practice of yoga provides success. Yoga makes the impossible possible, and in the absence of yogi practices, one meets his death, because there is no other way of averting it. A person whose heart illumines with the beginnings and unique knowledge of Shivasvarodaya that destroy all darkness, and whose brilliance is pleasant like the moon, has no fear of death even in his dreams. The Ida is Ganges, Pingala is Yamuna, and the central Susuma is the Saraswati. The confluence of these 3 should be known as the Priyag.